gonna do a quick thing. There are 2 eyes in syphillis. Well, this one's called There's Rarely an Eye in Syphillis, but you don't want it. Episode 2, It Has Never Gone Away. Episode 3, The Magic That Saves Lives, or Destroys Them. Episode 4, She Gets What She Wants. Episode 5, Magic Isn't Free. Episode 6, Never Trust the Dead, and Certainly Not Me. Undead. And finally the epilogue. Where is this going? There's hardly a place in this world where I would rather be inside my tower with it filled with books. And that's also when things happen around here, because I can't focus on anything else without having to go think about something. To wit, I guess you could say that a lot of people think the same way, especially women. So maybe I should find another line of work. Maybe I should start up a beauty parlor or become a famous singer. Then the really fall head over heels for me. That's how crazy I am. But seriously. This is the best time of day, when the light comes into my room through the window, and it's early morning or late at night. Even then I can still sense the sun rising above. The birds begin to sing their songs to one another, while all sorts of other creatures move out from hiding places to claim their share of whatever food I have left lying on the ground. When we're alone here in this tower, I often feel like no time has passed. Sometimes, I almost expect to come back and find it empty, for someone to step out of nowhere. I always look away from my surroundings, though, or turn my gaze downward to read the pages in front of me. My glaze eyes over after a few hours, but right now as I write this down I can still make out the shadows of the figures who came with me when I arrived and had been living in my tower ever since. My eyes glaze over after a few hours, but right now as I write this down, I can still make out the shadows of the figures who came with me when I arrived, and had been living in my tower ever since. So did I read that? Did I read that already? Oh, absent-minded me. They're all so different. There's Gorn, my dog, who's only a little less stupid than himself, but also brave and loyal. He's the perfect companion when there's a dangerous situation that needs to be dealt with. There's a Pukin, whom everyone calls Puck, and she's the most unpredictable creature I know. Very strategic. say she's the craziest. She's the kind of person who gets into a car and drives off the cliff even though it's going 20 miles over the speed limit. Then there's Jolie, who's really bright and intelligent. It's hard to explain. As I've known her for years already, we just got close enough to each other last time that I fell in love with her. But sometimes I feel as though we don't actually have any real connection at all. Or maybe we do. I'm not sure anymore. Now a new wizard to join our group has been taking an interest in me recently. I may be seeing things, but I can swear that he's looking at my behind. And my beehive. And my beehive. Isn't things that I can swear? I used to look at my behind. You may laugh because it's very strange. You see, he keeps doing magic like fire and lightning that never ends. The power he creates seems to come from somewhere else. Something in my blood, perhaps. So the more he does, the more powerful the results will be. And the weirder my digestion gets. I never know what I can digest anymore. The old fare that the servants have made me for years no longer fit the bill. In fact, I'm almost wasting away as we speak, with 4 bags of chips in front of me, an old ton number of Spam, and who knows what cotton gain in various houses I will use to survive. In the warrior, my digestion gets, I don't know what I can digest. I could always pick the pockets of a few of the other survivors, but they would be so disappointed in me. No wonder I spend so much time alone. If everyone around me was like them, I would be the happiest man alive. In fact, I think I've had my fill. Oh! The fuck? What was that? What the hell was that? Did something explode? Well, ponder this. I'll continue. Now, where there are lots of girls in town all day long, I start feeling uncomfortable. And, it's easier to hide here in my tower. Wait. Oh. The mouse. God damn it. That was fucking scary. And now you want to know something about your favorite wizard or wizardess. I really don't care. The most interesting thing is just how hard it is to get rid of people. For some reason, if I cast a spell to wipe out every human being in the world, I can still keep talking to the same people. Every word we exchange gets recorded and played over and over until finally it becomes boring. It isn't like it'll ever end. Now, if only I knew who was making these recordings, I'd be able to throw them in the trash bin faster than anyone could blink. And when the person with the power sees that the recording's been eliminated, she'll be sorry because they were the best entertainment she's heard all year. She'll curse me for it, and curse the whole universe because I got lucky. So what's so bad about having someone watching? They're not doing anything wrong. They can't possibly see what you say anyway. At least that's what most people believe, but who knows if they're right. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll probably notice the nice person one day isn't the same person. The key. Well, I need you to make sure everything is secure. Good night, and may you find a lover someday too. Your old friend, Manfred. Chapter 3. It's good to be a wizard again. There's no telling where you might find a wizard nowadays. The DMV, the CIA, the FDA, the NSA, the FEMA. There you go. The New York State Council for the Arts. FEMA. That emergency group, FEMA. Acronym FEMA. Thank you. New York State Department of Buildings. State Department of Buildings. Department of Buildings. Department of Finance. Department of Law. Internal Affairs. The Police Union. Inheritance. Uncertain. Back of the mind. Body Unity Society, that's out there, alright. And maybe even the Department of Defense, and that isn't complete just yet. I'm not done adding to it. There are many departments and groups left in our great city that would have their funding cut if word got around about the money they spent. Sometimes we get a new senator who seems very serious when he first comes to office. Okay. Now I gotta be really honest. Gotta be really honest with y'all. If there's a certain presence in this episode that summons my earbuds, to the site of the assassination of our president, please send me along with the greatest prepared foods, tofu and tofuti and tofofo, all the tofs that you can snatch. I'll snatch them though, it's okay. And that's what promotes, and that's what happens if the government does its job. I hope you remember that. But in real life, the world of magic still exists, and it goes on with or without help of the federal government. If anything, they seem to be help keep things on an even keel. Where the first wizards began, they used a lot more force on each other. There were a lot of sissy slap fights, a lot of magic missile tosses, a lot of slime summonings, a lot of thieves' cant, even though no one knew what that was. Like, you probably never got to do any of that stuff, so let's start from the beginning of time. I always thought wizards would have been better off starting in another universe, but that didn't have that way. So they all come to be living here in Innerdale. Through the efforts of moi, who took a stab at an angel's name. The angel's name upon my bowels. I can ask for haste in my bathroom visit. I can ask for haste through my bathroom visit. I can ask for haste in my bathroom visit. One thing about this story I'd like to point out right up front. The wizards of today are very diverse when it comes to gender. There's one female wizard who goes by the handle Manfred. Really. He has a dog named Gorn, whom he talks to often, and a girl named Pukin, whose appearance he can never explain in great detail. I hear that Aunt Manfred has a little bit of Alzheimer's, that he's one of those sundowners. Like when the sun goes down, he starts to lose more and more of himself, and that the pathway is inexorable. I don't really have a problem with a man wearing makeup. The only problem is trying to tell where it ends and starts. But all the men on this earth need to do is take off their sunglasses every once for all of them can look at the emperor and see whether or not they're male or female. Just go to an antique shop like that. I wiggle. And I have it forevermore. The second most unusual character of our group was known as Puck. She's extremely intelligent, but you wouldn't call her pretty much hot unless you happen to be blind or something else. There's activity, no explanation I can give it for it or either. She looks beautiful to me every single time I've ever seen her. I've ordered 200 more full cycles of breath from Amazon. That should enable me to tell the rest of the tale. No. Yo-ho. When they get here, which may be in my own eyes, I mean it. If it were your turn and whatnot, it isn't my fault, but it's so difficult being all by yourself, even though everybody's different now. I still remember back a few years ago when everyone looked the same. The only difference is how well some people disguise themselves. And who knows who could be spying on us all the time. When the last of my breath is used up, but before I get too far ahead of myself and make any mistakes along those lines, it's possible I could forget what I know, and the end result would be the death of both of us. And believe me, I want to keep that as a real possibility. New home. New hope? You might say that. All the wizards and other creatures here live in a series of towers in various parts of the city. As a matter of fact, all the land is completely owned by people of this strange place. It's a huge magical country. But wait a minute. Isn't Innerdale occupied only by two wizards? You and Tarrington of Castle Hornfrost. Oh, what's happening? What happened? Log in. No. No. God. You saw it here first. That's my email. It's fine. Where am I? Did I mistype? New home. Old phone. Coming game for the City Boys after a long spell without one, and now we're back and better than ever. We got a whole new team going all the way to the championship this year with your boys getting to play it right in front of you with their own seats and everything. It's really exciting if I can say so myself. Now I'll turn it over to Manfred to fill you in on all his experience and maybe how things work here when it gets dark and the other creatures start. Hello there, my name is Manfred. First I want to take care of some cleaning stuff. I wish to Okay. Hello there, my name's Manfred, and I want to get some cleaning stuff done. I wish to brief you here about the sights of Annandale. Fun fact, all this property is the product and the creation and the burden and the custodian obligation of two wizards, the only two wizards that are legally here as residents, me and Terrington of Honfrost Castle. Are the custodians of the maintenance of this little property. So with a little bit of preparation, the light fixtures in the festival kitchen will be powered on using a regular house-level outlet, but I'll have to take a trip up to the attic later to connect the light directly to my own magical energy source. I should find it very rewarding and satisfying seeing as all the bright lighting from this vantage point. I think it's time for coffee. You pour coffee as Manfred. Now let's get right down to business with the actual magic in operation inside our abode. I like to think of this place as a fully functioning laboratory where everything is possible, if done in the proper manner. Well, then that's exactly what this space will be from my experience. There are many who might look askance at the prospect of working hard at conjuring the next great. New innovation in spellcasting when one could just open up some books in search of the same knowledge and ideas which exist across the entire world. However, I believe that learning to adapt old spells into your own unique style, if not reinvent them entirely, is a far more intellectually engaging and productive than simply reading some obscure tome which may turn out to be the key to the perfect alchemical fire. You don't want that. What if you want to burn them down? Go down many paths. I'll go it alone in the basement. Okay, I guess I will go it alone in the basement, climbing down the stairs. And she's really cute too. So you get all sorts of different creatures around here, and that includes humans. Don't worry about it. I mean, we had to do something after that mess with the werewolf. It wasn't good enough. So now, let me see where to begin this story well. It wasn't particularly pleasant experiences. I will never forget seeing her. See all sorts of different creatures around here. Sorry for the slowness. I am trying to act the part. I growl at the first human. I'll tell you about my most recent attempt to test their loyalty later. I heard rumors in town about an ancient secret weapon which some call the Whisperer. I decided to investigate and go down there and try to find it, but as I walked through the woods on the way to the location, I heard a commotion in the distance, and I saw a couple of goblins trying to take advantage of the situation. As I came up behind them, they immediately noticed me and turned tail and ran, screaming in the woods, of course. I decided to investigate and go down to try and find it, but as I walked through the woods on the way on the location, I saw a couple of goblins. As I came up behind them, they noticed me and immediately turned tail and ran. And of course, I went in pursuit. I chased the little shits into one of their hideouts, where I confronted them and threatened to put their leaders in stocks. Well, of course, things soon became violent, and suddenly the ground began to move. Here's all this earth shaking and rocks being thrown at us, and my enemies weren't taking any chances of having their head blown off, because they were hurling boulders and Greek fire. Spells back. Then a large hole appeared in the ceiling, which allowed me to reach them. I took the opportunity to strike one of the Pascal passengers down by throwing a ball of fire into his face. I knocked him out, grabbed another goblin, tossed him in the same manner, so he hit the floor along with the other body of his brother, who was now unconscious. And then I smushed their heads together in a nice pulp. Into a nice pulp. Into a nice pulp. In their heads into a nice pulp. Okay, sure. It works every time. After dealing with all these little pests, I decided to have some fun. Brothel time. The video game. Brothel time. Brothel time. Brothel. 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 Mustang Ranch brothel. There we go. Time. Time. Time! Exclamation point. That was totally accidental. Capitalization? Yes. That's it. Time. That's what I like to call getting back on track. When I started my research, I found some references to this old forgotten device called an electroshock stick, which was supposedly a very effective tool for extracting information from certain types of criminals. But as far as I can tell, nobody ever used it in the modern day. Maybe Klingons. For puberty. I didn't know why this mysterious invention had been kept secret, but until I discovered that the inventor themselves seemed to have disappeared quite unexpectedly in the late 70s. My own experiments were based around trying to figure out how to use magic instead of electricity, and I've come up with a couple of interesting discoveries since starting this project. For instance, I made a water bubble, which caused a creature in the basement to go insane and then drown itself. I also created a large explosion of green flames from my fingers, with no visible flame source whatsoever. I was able to achieve a small degree of control over the effect, although I did not anticipate that I might be capable of creating actual fire. And finally, I was able to force an entire person to confess things by causing them to black out every 15 seconds for 2 hours. The victim would then wake up on his or her knees in front of me, covered in drool, saying, "I'm sorry," having inflicted no pain whatsoever. Isn't that miraculous? Having inflicted, oh God. Having inflicted no pain whatsoever, isn't that miraculous? You'd think that with all the time I'd spent reading about these things, I could at least do it without any effort. You don't feel good myself. I should have known better than to expect a big splash from this little thing before I set it off. So what am I supposed to say now? Speech, 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 speech. That's right. Speech. No need to speak if you're dead. There's still so much to discover. Let's start with the basics of how this stuff works. All these spells and devices have been around for thousands of years. They function by utilizing magic to bring about a certain change in reality. Speech, spell. What exactly is reality? You can't define it. But I would imagine that when you try to put an end to anything in your mind that has meaning, it becomes part of your reality, and as long as the original purpose hasn't changed, or shifted with the passing of time, then reality never changes. It follows that this doesn't apply to everything, including the things that happen inside our heads. And the fact that most people are unaware of this, their own thoughts, shows that something very complex must be going on in there. That's why might not be an actual way for one person to know exactly how another understands these things. If you want to find out about someone else who may share this knowledge, you have to go talk to them. And if the concept of conversation itself isn't clear, it shouldn't matter, because as long as I'm speaking words they can understand, then it's all done by magic. Magic really does work. You'll see. So this is how it begins. I've learned to control my magical energy, which means that I no longer need a separate source of power to cast spells like a wizard would. But even without a power backup unit, there's enough magic flowing through me every day to perform some pretty powerful and varied feats. The only problem is that my physical capabilities have been reduced accordingly. For instance, the ability to fly and shapeshift into new forms of life just aren't practical options anymore. And now it's time for a bit more advanced theory class. As you probably figured out by now, I came from another world where everything was different. In that place, we were able to create a lot of amazing stuff using magic and science together. And while I do use some of those same principles when I'm at home, it's still hard to get the full effect. Sometimes if the idea seems too good to be true, or too far beyond the boundaries of reality, then you know that maybe it is impossible in the end. That's very harsh. And this kind of thinking has already helped keep me out of a lot of trouble. The main difference between modern-day human beings and other creatures is our method of reproducing children. It may sound strange, but I can think of very few other creatures who come close to sharing the bond with humans and have one another. I don't know. We are bound together not only by the blood inside of us, but also by this special thing called love. That's why it makes sense for two people to choose to have kids. To ensure that love at least exists somewhere, if not by default in the child. Hopefully between the two adults too, but sometimes, you know. They're just made up because your parents never actually say these things out loud. I mean, I'm really just trying to make a little conversation, and there she goes again. Speech, 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 word. Well, of course, I'll stop right away. So here I am, having this great big talk about my life, and how much I love living here on a crazy planet known as Earth, when all of a sudden I look over and I see something absolutely fantastic. Is that a giant catfish down by the river? No, wait, it's moving. It's alive, alive, the damn thing is alive. And it doesn't look like a catfish. I need a drink. All of the weird creatures you see around here don't have any visible mouths. Instead, their entire body seems to liquefy into some kind of fluid. And then it sprays out like that. So I guess you could call them fish breath if you wanted, but I'm pretty sure this liquid doesn't taste anything like that. So I guess you could call them fish breath if you wanted. It does, however, seem to work pretty well as a form of propulsion to get from place to place. And by way of comparison, they're a lot smaller than whales, so it's easier to catch one when it comes time for food. But their blubber is twice as chewable and flammable. Maybe it's got enough calories to be an energy source too. I'm certainly going to have to experiment with this if I can ever figure out a safe way to store and control the fluid safely. I've been meaning to try storing some of it in a hollowed-out gourd, which has worked for me in the past. And speaking of hollows, I've learned that the key to getting a good deal of stuff from the world is to find out who else lives here and what they need and want first. The only person in this town that I trust is the mayor, and I know he wouldn't steal anything from anyone, even though it would probably be worth stealing. But what? There's people other than the lizards? I'm afraid so. But don't worry, they're constructs. They will not hurt you. They will not tax you. I mean, they'll send you the paperwork for taxes, but you don't have to pay them. They will not tax you. Nor will they tax you. But you don't have to pay them. Either. As long as you don't sell anything back to the other people, I'm sure you'll get along just fine. You won't have any money anyway. If you do decide to sell something to someone, please make sure that you are not using magic to prevent him from selling it to you. Because the whole concept of money may or may not exist in this reality. And if so, there's really no way for it to move around between the pockets of different people. And speaking of which, I guess all those taxes and tolls should keep things interesting for a while. The mayor says he's going to get new locks on his door soon. He thinks that the way I killed goblins was inhumane. Well, if he was really serious, it would be ingoblane. It certainly wasn't very fair, but it had been bothering me a little lately. I had heard about other creatures coming here, because they think it's safe, and then dying when some wizard comes along to bow their heads off. That's sort of why they're having such an awful time these days, but if nobody's being attacked, they seem content to go on with their lives, I suppose. So far, there doesn't appear to be any kind of organized resistance. I did see one person kill another person, which always makes me wonder how people can have a good reason to do that. But it's happened before. And even so, there must be limits to this stuff. I'm not certain where they are for now. Well, enough small talk. There are more important things at hand. Colonel Angus. Colonel Angus. Colonel Angus, fetch me the cat anus. There we go. That's all we need. There's nothing to worry about. It's perfectly natural to change your language like this. It may not come as a surprise to find out that some of these people have no idea what is actually normal behavior for humans. I didn't need to tell them again that the only thing I needed to do was talk to them. The moral of the story so far. The moral of the story so far. The moral of the story so far. Don't trust anyone who's got a knife or a sword. And lastly, if someone tries to force a relationship upon you without any respect in their heart, then you should run away and never look back. I'll probably be busy all week learning new words, but I wanted to share some of my discoveries with everyone before I started doing anything else. Good day, and 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 good day.